Hi, welcome to Interview Pro Plus. In today's module, we are going to be talking about the key sections that are required in a resume and what are the common errors students make when they are writing their resume in these specific sections. The key fields or sections that should always be there in a resume are your contact information, summary or an objective, work experience, education, and job related skills. Whichever job you are applying for, make sure the skills that they require are highlighted in your resume. If your resume has a lot of white space, then it is advisable to not leave it blank, but to include nice to have sections. These nice to have sections can be your certifications, hobbies and interests, your projects, the languages that you know, any social media handle, and location. Let's look at a few common errors that generally students make in the key fields. Contact number. Whenever you are mentioning your contact number, make sure you insert your full name, your mobile number, a professional email ID, and the location. You need not enter your postal address, permanent address, father's name, or mother's name. Why do we tell students not to include these? Because your resume invariably becomes a two-page resume. And your technical skills do not get highlighted if you are taking so much of space on your resume mentioning all of these things. Remember, your contact information is mentioned only so that you get contacted by your employer. So I'm going to show you an example of two options over here. In the first one, the person has mentioned not only his name, phone number, and email address, but has given other extra information like gender and language. While in option 2, he has very clearly mentioned his name, email address, and his contact details. Option number 2 is always preferred over option number 1 in this scene. Email address. Let's look at a situation. A lot of us create email IDs when we are in college. We use email IDs with extensions like Qt, Silver Bullet, Black Saturn, Love Coding, and all such extensions. Similarly, there is a situation given where Seema Sharma is applying for a job and she has created an email ID by the name of seema.cute@email.com. When she's preparing her resume, which email ID, according to you, should she put on her resume? Correct. She can put option 2 or option 3, which is seema.sharma@email.com or seema.sharma.1998@email.com. It's best not to use email IDs which have adjectives like cute, silver bullet, outstanding, or general extensions because the recruiter forms a perception about you even before meeting you. There are so many resumes that get rejected just because their email ID is Rakesh loves black satin at email.com or Seema love hugs at email.com. These email IDs form a perception in the recruiter's mind. That's why it is always important to use a professional email ID with your first name and last name. There are a couple of students whose first name and last names are very common, like Abhishek Kapoor. In that case, you can use a number which is specific to you, which can be your date of birth, it can be a year, it can be any number combination which should not be more than 4 numbers, such that the email address does not become too long. Let's look at the second key field, your summary. Your objective and summary should be extremely specific. It should highlight your qualities. Avoid using abbreviations like perfect, hardworking, outstanding, reputed, professional. The reason we advise students not to use these adjectives is because they might get grilled on these points in an interview. And if you do not have a clear idea as to why have you used a specific word in the objective, you start getting stressed out, and you fumble in your interview. Let's look at two examples of an objective. Objective number one, to be a part of an organization where I get a chance to use my knowledge and skills to contribute in the progress of the organization as well as myself. The second one, I'm willing to give total support to the organization that I am in with the experience and capability that I have in order to achieve organization's goals and create mutual benefits. Both these objectives and similar objectives should be avoided because they are vague, they are generic, and they don't give a very clear sense of clarity to the end employer. Rather than this, let's look at these statements. Energetic individual with the capability to create and design eye-catching designs, looking at an entry-level graphic designer position. Similarly, I have a degree in accountancy and have knowledge about financial accounting. I have a desire to acquire an entry level in accounting job position at McClare Bank. These kind of objectives are much better, which highlight your skill, highlight what kind of job you're looking at. It's better to put such specific objectives rather than leaving it extremely vague. Another key section that should be included is work experience. When you're talking about your work experience, it is better to mention the company name, your designation, job details, and the duration. You should obviously avoid things like your salary, incentives, your reporting manager's name, and the reason you're leaving the job. These questions can be answered in an interview, and you need not specifically mention it in your resume. Education. Education is a very important field that should be mentioned and highlighted in your resume. Remember, you should always put the highest degree first and then in reverse chronological order put your education. That means to say, if you hold a master's degree, mention that first, followed by your bachelor's, followed by your 12th and then your 10th. Always mention the degree, the university that you have studied from, the location, your year of pass out, and your percentage and GPA. You need not put false information even if you have a gap in your education, and avoid using abbreviations. Your employer will not understand abbreviations, so it is advisable to put in everything in full form and not in a short form. Does this look familiar? Is this how you show up your academic details in your resume? Now, this is a very standard resume design that most students use when they are showing or when they're talking about their education qualification. However, if you look at the second one on the right hand side, that highlights your skills better, it looks cleaner and neater. So it is advisable to use the second option as compared to the first one. Key sections. Your technical skills, your job related skills is extremely important to mention because that's when the recruiter knows that you are a fit and you understand the key skills that the job requires you to know. You must mention your technical skills and your professional level skills. Technical skills. It's important to mention your technical skills and the proficiency level, which means to say whether you understand it at a basic level, an intermediate level, an advanced level, or you're an expert. It's important to mention the proficiency level because the recruiter will know how well or how good do you match the profile. Avoid putting false information. How do you highlight your technical skills in a resume? Generally, students either put it in a table or they write a technical summary about which course they have completed and from which city. However, when you mention your details like this, the recruiter does not understand your proficiency level. That is why it is advisable to either use a bar, something like this, which shows your skills and the level of proficiency, or you could use bullets and make a mention of it next to the bar if you're an expert, if you're at an advanced level, or you're at an intermediate level. Why are these styles so important? Because when a recruiter is looking at your resume, these designs just set your resume a notch apart from the others. Remember, whenever a recruiter sees your resume, the upper half of your resume is where the focus falls on. You have to make sure that your name stands out, your professional skills stand out, your proficiency stands out, and your education stands out in the upper half of your resume. So, how does a fresher's resume usually look like? They usually look like option 1 or option 2, where it's either put in a box or there's too much of text. In both these cases, the recruiter might not give a passing glance, a second chance to your resume. However, if you mention it like this, where your skills stand out in bullet points or in a bar and your name stands out prominently, the recruiter just tends to remember your resume faster. There's a higher recall value. If you see, both these resumes are of the same person, but the probability of the recruiter recalling option 2 is way higher than him recalling option 1. That is why make sure your resume stands out from the crowd so that you at least have a chance of going for an interview.